Crafting an application that stands out is essential, but it must stand out for the right reasons. Med school admissions committees are on the lookout for the following common oversights and mistakes because they make their difficult jobs easier. Here are 8 medical school red flags to avoid at all costs. Dr. Jubal, MedSchoolInsiders.com. You're applying alongside thousands of other applicants when you apply to med school, and many of them are just as or more qualified than you. How do you stand out without raising any red flags for admissions committees? The first red flag is downward trending performance metrics. It doesn't matter if your first semester was straight A's. If your grades slip consistently in your second semester, it shows that your performance is not reliable. Admissions committees look at each potential student as an investment. If your performance metrics trend downwards, Adcoms will move on to a student they consider to be a better investment. Medical school is much more rigorous and demanding than undergraduate study. If your grades are trending downward in undergrad, it shows you may not be ready for the varied and extensive challenges of medical school. A student who shows continued improvement throughout undergrad, and who has a great story to go along with that progress, is just as or more appealing as a student with consistently high marks. Next, avoid a checkbox mentality. While there are a number of aspects to check off on the medical school application, these checklists are only basic guidelines of where to begin. Admissions committee members are looking for more than whether or not you can check off the bare minimum application requirements. They want to see passion, determination, and dedication. They want to see that you pursued interests both inside and outside of medicine. Simply checking off the boxes of what you think admissions committees want to see will starve your application of any personality, making you look like every other cookie-cutter pre-med. You must move beyond a checkbox mentality to stand out amongst the sea of equally talented pre-meds. Take the time to figure out which aspects of medicine you are truly passionate about. Yes, showing a well-rounded list of extracurricular activities is an asset, but it's more important to show commitment and passion toward your interests. Following your passions develops the story behind why you pursued them, creating a compelling application. For example, maybe you immigrated to the US as a child and are passionate about underserved medicine. Therefore, you founded an organization at your university that helps with medical aid and humanitarian work or water sanitation back in your home country. Adcoms want to hear why you felt passionate about your activities in your application and during interviews. You won't have anything interesting to say if the only reason you pursued an extracurricular was because you thought you had to check it off the pre-med list. Next, while it may sound a little obvious, many students either ignore, don't understand, or don't bother to research the application instructions laid out by medical school admissions committees. Rules and instructions are there for a reason, whether you agree with them or not. You aren't above the rules set by admissions committees, and trying to get around them will only hinder your chances. If a school says not to contact them at a certain point in the process, don't. If they do not accept thank you letters, don't send them. Look up the instructions from each school and follow them to the letter. Don't expect that every program will be the same either. It's up to you to understand the complete application process for each school you apply to. Fourth, most students don't realize the impact that just one neutral or bland letter of recommendation can have on their chances of acceptance. Admissions committees expect each of your letters to be written by people who know you well and clearly greatly respect both your talents and who you are as a person. Quality matters much more than quantity. You're better off with 4 glowing letters instead of adding a mediocre 5th one. Submitting strong letters is what matters most of all, even above the prestige of the writer. It's better to have a well-written, glowing letter from someone who knows you well versus a mediocre letter from a world-renowned specialist. If they aren't able to speak highly of you and provide specific examples of your skills and character, the letter won't be effective and will raise red flags as to whether or not you actually did build strong relationships during undergrad. You can secure strong letters by building strong relationships throughout your pre-med years, but do not underestimate how long this will take. Start early by getting involved in extracurriculars and engaging with professors during their office hours. Continue to nurture and build upon those relationships with each passing month and year. Our comprehensive guide to getting strong letters of recommendation is linked in the description. The next red flag is a boring personal statement that doesn't tell a story. Admissions committee members read hundreds of personal statements each year, which means they've heard, "I want to become a doctor because I'm passionate about science and helping people," countless times before. Med schools already have your CV in the form of your work and activities section. They know your achievements. Your personal statement is about what drives you, and it must capture the admissions committee's attention. What's your superhero origin story? Is there someone in your life who inspired you to take this path? Did someone close to you pass away, endowing you with the drive to spare other people that pain, like Uncle Ben did for Spider-Man or Batman's parents did for him? Look at your personal statement as a chance to tell your story and show the admissions committee the person behind your accomplishments. Grab the reader's attention with a hook and keep them intrigued with humorous or moving anecdotes taken directly from your past. And as we say time and time again, show, don't tell. Choose anecdotes that exemplify your skills and admirable personal qualities. Learn more from our guide to writing the perfect personal statement right up here and linked in the description. Next, short-lived experiences are also a possible red flag for admissions committees. On AMCAS, you can select up to 15 pre-med experiences, which will include extracurricular activities, volunteering, jobs, and much more. Admissions committees are primarily looking at your clinical exposure, research experience, and community involvement, as this shows you have the kind of well-rounded experience needed to know whether or not medicine is for you. Your experiences should also include non-medical activities, as these show dimension to your personality and interests. You're much less likely to be perceived as a cookie-cutter applicant, and you'll have something memorable to speak about during interviews. For example, my 4-year commitment to a competitive dance team was almost every interviewer's favorite topic to ask me about. If you demonstrate you're able to balance your grades, extracurriculars, MCAT score, research, and non-medical hobbies, you'll prove to Adcoms that you can bring diversity and value to their student body. What's most important about the activities you choose is demonstrating longitudinal commitment and notable involvement. Don't fill your list with one-off volunteering experiences or activities you only tried for a couple of weeks. And don't separate activities that should be grouped into one entry, such as your shadowing experiences. Admissions committees want to see the depth of your commitment, as medical education is far from a one-and-done process. If all of your activities are short-lived, it suggests to Adcoms you could flake out on your medical education, thus ruining their investment in you. The 7th mistake to avoid is notably exaggerating your hours and accomplishments. This is tantamount to lying, which obviously is a huge red flag. Keep in mind that when you add an experience, you also add a reference. While uncommon, Adcoms can check with your references, and if they say something that contradicts what you've claimed, Adcoms will certainly make note of it. You're far better off being honest so that you can answer freely without having to cover your tracks. Plus, it should go without saying that integrity is a trait schools are looking for in future doctors. If you're considering exaggerating or lying about your hours or any other aspect of your medical school application, you may want to reconsider your career path. Lastly, far too many pre-meds make careless spelling and grammatical errors. As a soon-to-be medical student and future doctor, you need to be able to pay attention to the details. Allowing careless typos or grammatical errors to slip through in your application is a big red flag for admissions committees. These kinds of obvious errors show that you did not put time and care into editing and proofreading your application. Remember that you cannot rely on spell check and editing bots alone. These tools can certainly help you catch errors, but they can also miss context in your writing. Even if you believe you're a strong writer, it's common to miss your own mistakes when proofreading. Ensure you have at least one or more capable editors proofread your work before hitting submit. Our free personal statement sample PDF shows 10 real personal statements from successful applicants with added commentary from expert physicians. And if you want to master your personal statement and overall medical school application, our physician advisors can guide you every step of the way. We'll ensure your application exceeds expectations, avoids red flags, and demonstrates passion, dedication, and personality. In other words, we'll make sure your medical school application stands out for all the right reasons. Learn more about how to invest in your future at medschoolinsiders.com. Thank you all so much for watching. If you're applying to medical school this application cycle, check out our How to Apply playlist and grab a free copy of our personal statement sample PDF. Much love, and I'll see you in the next one.